have any prepared text right now other than what's been handed out, unless there are questions from the committee.
Representative Evans?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative, there's a reference in the minuscule chart here that Health and Human Services may be given as part of your bill. The Main Medical Use of Marijuana Act, you were going to amend it, but this suggestion that it's already, it may be taken care of in the Health and Human Services Committee. Do you know what's going on with the committee on that?
I don't know what the status is right now of those bills. I think if the committee would have called Mr. McCary before, he's been monitoring the activity. But as a general rule, I found DHHS to be properly positioned to do those kinds of inspections for the health concerns.
Thank you.
Any other questions from Representative Dado? Representative Schmidt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative, we're trying to look at this as we're going through this. I want to zero in on opt-in versus opt-out for municipalities. And to me, that is a really big deal. And in kind of talking to some folks offline, apparently the municipalities right now have the authority to pass an ordinance to ban a particular place of business, which would include marijuana establishments. But we've also seen in some of the language of the bills proposed that it also kind of tries to help to clarify some of that. Where in the process, if this does become legal, can municipalities say, this is going to be not okay in Saco versus in Portland? Like Portland says, yes, we are super excited about this, but Saco says, well, hey, wait a minute, we don't want a retail establishment in our community. Do you see like there needs to be a particular window where it allows municipalities, once knowing that this is now legal in the state, to evaluate their current city ordinances and give them an opportunity to pass an ordinance based on what the recommendations are of the voters?
The short answer is yes. I think it's important that municipalities have a voice in this decision. I think we have to maintain, or I should say the municipalities would have to concern themselves with not legislating access out of their municipality, but at least consider the possibility that can be properly zoned for a plan and set up a process that would address that. But I think the residents and their elected representatives should make that decision so they don't feel that this market is being imposed upon them without their input.
So just a follow-up to that. In some of the language, I'm gleaning that there needs to be a vote, or apparently in at least some of the language, it looks like there needs to be a referendum at the municipality level in order to be able to allow an establishment to come in. So where in that process, so I'm kind of looking at more of a timeline. If we legalize marijuana, at what point do municipalities say yay or nay? Like, are they having to unilaterally say, we don't want this, we have to now go up to a special election? Like, I just wanted a scenario, like, walk me through what actually happens from that point.
These two bills are both opt-out.
That's what I'm trying to
Both of
understand.
these bills that are in
Right.
front of you are opt-out. So it is allowed unless the municipality opts out.
So that's what I'm getting at, is I want to run through the scenario if a community wants to opt out. And if somebody else has to answer, that's what we will do.
Representative Long?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is just completely opposite of the way the alcohol laws. Different towns have Sunday sales. Some towns outright ban the sale of alcohol. That is opt-in option. This one here is very similar to the way we passed the fireworks bill. When you go forward with this, every town, unless they have an ordinance or some mechanism to enforce it, will allow these facilities to be there unless I go to my town as a town meeting and discuss this, bring the ordinance forward, and go that way. The cities operate the same way, it has to be walked through the. And if they say no, it's no, and if they, no action's done, they presume it's legal.
No, go ahead.
Sorry to belabor this, I just really want to get that information. So, and I hear you, Representative Long. So I guess my question on that particular piece is, if we're now, if it becomes legal, we legalize marijuana, and we sense that a particular community is wanting to opt out, we've already made it legal. So we have retail establishments applying for, or we have companies applying for these retail licenses. Where in that timeline is this election taking place when they're applying for these licenses, to know that these companies are applying for those licenses? Where's the notification for the community, so the community can inform themselves, so they know, hey, we have to hold a special election, that's going to have an additional cost? I'm just trying to play that scenario out for me, because to me, if my community wants to opt out, I want to be able to tell them this is how you do it.
First of all, there's going to be a year where rulemaking can occur. When this begins, the municipalities are going to have an opportunity to consider for themselves how, in fact, they're going to administer the presence of cannabis in their community. And they can do that through ordinance and whatever other process is available to them as a municipality. There are some instances where people started bottle clubs or cannabis clubs, and the venture was new to the community. They didn't have a period where they could assess about how they wanted to approach this. And therefore, they'll have that opportunity in this bill, and you can add additional language to that. And it's much like when we established dispensaries. At first, it was only state law. The municipalities thought they could regulate that. Instead, what they were trying to regulate were caregivers. There wasn't a lot of clarity, so you're right. But this will provide them an opportunity to develop rules about if, in fact, there will be cannabis social clubs in the community or not, and how they want to control that, where retail should be cited, what the hours of operation might look like, much like they do with liquor, except there'll be more of a municipal perspective involved. That's the piece of this, and that's why all of us have been trying to present this bill. Those kinds of questions don't get answered very well in the ballot box, and that's why the legislature needs to do this kind of front-end work so we can clarify some of those details.
Do you think we need to clarify any of the language to make that crystal clear?
I don't have a problem. Go ahead.
Well, in Representative Russell's bill on page 15, on line 32, this is the application process. What is it? There is notice to the municipalities when an application comes in. I may not have the right place. I'll keep looking. I apologize.
If Representative Jeanette, if you go to my bill on page 18, you'll see we devote about 16 lines, which isn't a lot of language to the idea of local control. But I think we've established general principles there that the community can determine through its own local process the nature and complexion of the cannabis market in town. So if they want to put out a referendum saying we won't have any cannabis social clubs, they could do that. It wouldn't contravene state law, because they're not speaking to making the substance illegal. It's simply taking their police power at the municipal level in order to regulate its consumption or sale.
Any other questions for Dion? Seeing none.
Thank you, Representative.
Dan Walker, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Senator Rosen. Representative Powell, members of the Criminal Justice Committee, my name is Dan Walker. I'm a lawyer here in Augusta at Frederick Clarity, and I represent Wellness Connection of Maine. I circulated a memo that I thought I would just get any questions about it or go through it quickly. I'll use some specific questions that arose at the last work session. So I have to lead you to the highlighter. It's a yellow one. It's all highlighted. So the first point was, and I think Representative Shanette was asked a number of questions around this, was around the idea of provisional licenses, some referred to as automatic licenses. I just wanted to first lead you through the bill, through LD 1401, where that language is, so you can see for it yourself. And then we included some other further language as a protection to help with that. So the language is in section 3006, sub 2 on page 12 of the bill, and I include it right here, right in the memo. So just to read the pertinent parts. After the adoption by the Bureau of Rules to implement this chapter, each registered dispensary licensed under Title 22, Chapter 558C is deemed to have a provisional license to operate one commercial cannabis cultivation facility, one cannabis product manufacturing facility, and one retail cannabis store. So that's the first language. And then, skipping a couple steps down, upon demonstration of compliance with these rules during the annual renewal, the registered dispensary must be granted a full license. So if you have to buy that year, and then first there's rulemaking occurs, then they can go into operation after rulemaking, and then following ideally a town vote, at least you provide a town the opportunity to vote. Then there would be an application process for the various licenses, and during that process, the dispensaries would receive a license and then could just start operation. I mean, they're already doing this right now, so they could just do what they're doing right now. And so we added some language. So if you turn to page 2, right now there's language for provisional licenses in Title 22 for assisted living facilities. And so we tweaked that language, and then if you see the underlined language, we can add that into here, so it gives a couple further protections around how this would look. So if you look at this new sub 5, and it could be in whichever bill you adopt, you could just introduce this into it. So it would read, a provisional license or approval shall be issued by the Bureau to an applicant who A, operates a medical marijuana dispensary under the Title 22, Chapter 558C Main Medical Use of Marijuana Program. B, complies with all applicable laws and rules of the medical use of marijuana program, except those which can only be complied with once the adult use clients are served by the applicant. And C, demonstrates the ability to comply with all applicable laws and rules by the end of the provisional license term. And so if you look just above that, that's language that was just taken directly out of Title 22 for existing provisional licenses, how they're used right now. And I think that's often used when someone assumes another person's license. So you enter into a provisional license period for a while, prove yourself, same facility, and then you receive a full license. Below that, I just go through some of our reasoning behind it. I don't have to go through that again with you. It's more public hearing type information, so I won't go through that. But the idea is just that they're up and going, and this can create a structure, kind of a skeletal structure for this program going forward that we can then fill it out with caregivers, with other qualified individuals as you go forward. So that's that number one issue. I'll stop there, because I know that was a question that you guys asked. If there's any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Walker? Representative Schmidt.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Walker, for bringing this forward. So you mentioned sort of to go through the timeline, and I like this timeline, I just want to kind of zero in on that. So, we're talking about 1 year approximately of rulemaking, quotation marks, and then allowing these provisional licenses to be put out to the dispensaries automatically, in quotation marks. And then a town vote from a particular municipality? Like, so I guess I'm getting at, like, again, there's merit in saying that people that have been here already, that have gone through a million hoops to do municipal marijuana, to me, it gives me a little bit of solace in knowing that at least they would be the ones that at least have the first shot at applying or getting a license. However, I also say that the local control piece is really important. Can you clarify at what point do they receive the provisional license and what does that mean for them versus what a town might say at some point in that process? Like, is one going to come before the other? That's my question.
Right, so let's look at Thomaston, for example. WCM's got a dispensary in Thomaston. So let's say this goes forward, so then there's a year of, and I don't know if, I guess we could put into the statutory language some of this, what you're talking about, or we could wait for the rulemaking to outline it. Either way, I think it's all completely acceptable. So let's say it goes forward, the bill, it passes, Thomaston sees that it passes and says, you know what, we're fine with medical marijuana, but we don't need legalized marijuana in our community. So it passes a moratorium or it outlaws it through an ordinance, which I think all of the bills allow for that to happen. That could happen. I think there'd be plenty. I think there'd be at least a full year for that to happen. We could write into the statute a specific deadline. We have opt out. I think I'd rather have opt out than opt in, frankly. But you could write something like that into that. So there would be a full year by which the town would act. And then upon the conclusion of that year, upon the adoption of rulemaking, then we could say, here's your provision.
So we're only talking, so that 1 year of rulemaking is the window that you're saying municipalities would have an option of quote unquote opting out by passing an ordinance or a moratorium.
Just for there's eight areas where there's dispensaries.
Okay. So those dispensaries would automatically receive a provisional license at what point? Not during that 1 year of rulemaking?
No, upon the adoption of the bill.
So once those rules are in place and they've now received the provisional licenses, only if that particular municipality does not have a moratorium, right, unless they've opted out, where at that point will the applicants for the retail stores come into play? That immediately following rulemaking, when they dispersed the provisional licenses? Like, I guess I'm getting at, now where do the retail stores come into play?
Right, so the department will, within that year, just like when the dispensary program came up and running, that was done through initiative. Initiative passed, legislature, there was a task force. The task force reported to the legislature. The legislature then amended the original initiative, and then upon the adoption by the legislature, then the department entered into rulemaking. They actually entered into emergency rulemaking. We were able to put out those rules within very quickly. I think it was within a month of the legislature adjourning. They actually went into emergency. There's no requirement for emergency rulemaking here, so it would take a while. So the rules would go out a while. Could be as quickly as emergency, but it doesn't require it. So they would draft rules about what that application process would look like. The rules would be adopted, and then within those rules there would be an application process. And that application process would then take some time. And I'm sure part of the application process would be to assure the department that there's local approval.
So there's no set time period, like, and I guess we can be trusting of the rulemaking or not, but I guess I need to see that, or at least know a direction where we're wanting to take it to make sure, okay, if we're going to grant provisional licenses, it's coming in at this period, and then we're allowing the applicants for the retail stores, and then, so do you see how, like, that lines up, or at least that's the goal?
Yeah.
Like, I guess I want to hear that that's the timeline, that is the perceived goal of at least some of the groups that is wanting to move in that direction, because I don't want to just say, well, we'll leave it up to rulemaking. That doesn't give me solace in knowing that it's going to be handled. And so I guess I want to make sure that that is the intent and that is the direction you're wanting to take, so that we have the ducks in the row going into that conversation.
No, that's the intent, is to have there be an orderly process, that the rules are finally adopted before anything goes forward, that there's a municipality is assured that it's legal in that municipality before anyone steps in and gets some type of right that they're going to litigate about, that that municipality is approving of it. We can put in language that says that that municipality must approve of, or maybe doesn't disapprove of it. In other words.
Representative Powell?
You may have just answered my question, because you said something about showing the department that the municipality approves. If it's an opt-out, unless they take it to a vote, it's already approved.
Right.
So I think that's kind of backwards, because I know for fireworks in my town, no matter how much you push for it, they are not taking it to a vote. They're letting it happen. And the opt-out did not work for a lot of residents in our town, because they just won't take it to a vote. So that would be the same situation, because it's legal or it's approved until you disapprove.
Right.
So I'm just questioning the whole opt-out, whether that, if you're in a community like Vassar or a rural place in Aroostook County, where lots of people say, no, people get to do what they want to do, and the selectmen just won't take it to a vote. So I'm just, you answered it, but then, I'm kind of questioning, because an opt-out only works if you bring it to a vote, other than that it is an approved thing statewide.
I don't know how else you could do it, frankly. I think I grew up in a small town and no zoning or anything, and but all of a sudden someone thought McDonald's was going to go in town. There's other ways to deal with it. There's other ways to discourage that.
Representative Long?